pieces of pre-primed MDF. When you're caulking MDF, what you may find when you start to wipe down, this paint starts to come off. So I'll just take a little look at this. Well, it doesn't take much to work it up. See the MDF through there. Already that's slightly starting to fur up a little bit. So when you're caulking and the caulk's wetting the primer, then as you start to wipe, it'll come off. So here I've run a piece of caulk down. I'll just start to peel it off. Now this is why sometimes the caulk can start to crack out. It's not adhered, because as it wets it, it pulls it off. So I will literally just run this off, and you see how the caulk is lifting the primer off behind. I'll just take a closer look there. How it's lifted that off. Now that can give you problems. Again, it's the cheaper acrylic that's used on the MDF. So this side, you see it's a little bit brighter, this section. So I've sanded and primed this piece, left this original. And again, I'll peel this off. And you can see how it's lifting the primer off behind. Now hopefully, when I get to here, it should stay on. I've no idea what's going to happen here. So lifting it off. Stuck a little bit better there for some reason, but it is coming off behind. So if you're ever using MDF, I would recommend giving it a good prime first with something that will resist this. You clearly see that it's soaked through this primer and took the paint off behind, back to the MDF. So what we'll do is I'll rub all this off just to show you how easy it comes off. I'm already going through there. Just took it straight off. So if you are going to use a primer on these, use something that's going to resist it, definitely. An oil base may be good. Zinser 123 maybe, but it just depends if it will soak, if the caulk will soak through. I think what is happening here is very similar to what can happen with a mist coat on walls when it's applied too thick and it doesn't get a chance to soak in. So, and the reason why I'm thinking that is because again, the caulk sits on the primer and then wets it and lifts it away. It's not penetrated into the MDF. And here, this is the area that I primed. So again, a mist coat that's gone on a wall and then a secondary coat is applied, it wets that first coat and lifts it off the wall. And I think that's what's happening here, because this is easier to get off than this up here, which sounds funny, but technically this hasn't been wet. This has been wet with the paint and dried. So this area is the same as back up here. So if I just rub at this, it does start to go through, but it does take a little bit. Whereas this one, which I've primed, literally it's coming through now already. Yeah, I don't like MDF. I don't like MDF. I don't like the primers either. I've come across this with pre-primed timber where the cheap acrylic is used on it, and I just don't think it soaks into that timber or MDF. Not good. If you were buying MDF that hadn't been primed, then I would recommend using something like a thinned oil-based undercoat. If you haven't got the time, then something like this, which is a paint and primer, this is a satin finish, then you could prime your MDF or timber, and it will resist a lot of this wiping back, and then you can finish off with your coats. That's if you've not got the time. Again, using MDF that's already been primed, to get around that, you may just be better using something like an oil undercoat, because again, wetting this in with a water-based paint, when it dries and you put your caulk on, then it could still lift. That'll be something that I would have to try out. But certainly, if you've got the time, go for an MDF that's not been primed and prime it up yourself.